Alright, what's up guys? I'm going to go over my games from the Washington Chess Congress from 2021. But before I get into that, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more great chess videos. I'm very sorry I haven't been making videos recently. I'm getting back on it. I will be streaming hopefully every night, pretty late night because I have a lot of stuff I gotta do. But I'm going to make a pact to at least stream 3 times a week, hopefully every night, and make a lot more videos. So buckle up. Honestly, this tournament was pretty fun. I would rate it probably a B minus. There was good moments, there's bad moments. The real big things that you're gonna see in this tournament is great defense, great just resiliency, not giving up, which I didn't really know I had. I think part of it might be all the jiu-jitsu I'm doing, because jiu-jitsu does build the defensive mind, I think, more than offense, especially as a beginner. Because in the beginning, everyone kind of sucks, and you have to lose a lot, and you got to come back and fight back. And I think I did that a lot in this tournament. And I even played some child star. A lot of kids, man. A lot of people under the age of 15. It's kind of frustrating, but there's perks. And your boy did cash out a little bit. So buckle up and enjoy these beautiful games and kind of ugly games too from the Washington Chess Congress 2021. Alright, what's up guys? This is round 1 from the 2021 Washington Chess Congress. So I'm playing this kid, Sullivan McConnell, who's about, I think his USCF is like 2200, but his FIDE is obviously like 1800. And honestly, those are the worst because they're way better than their rating. But if you want to get a norm, it doesn't ruin it, but it makes it harder because they take your average rating at 1800. I mean, he's not 1800, he's 2200. Like, he's a national master. His FIDE should be at least like 2000, 2100. So these are always not fun pairings. Okay, so here we got an Archangel. This comes out of Roy Lopez, kind of marked by this Bishop C5 and B5 idea. Honestly, this is one of my favorite positions. I have a really good record here. I've beaten Grandmasters here. I don't think I've lost in years. So I get this, and my friend actually told me that he does his Knight C3 stuff against the Roy Lopez, or against the Archangel, and it's interesting. It's not that strong, but it trades off a lot of pieces, which is really annoying. So I go h6. The reason I go h6 is I want to push, and if he goes h3, I can go g5, and this is always really strong, because now I go g4, he has to take, I get bishop takes, I get the open g file, and you get really nice attacks there, and you'll actually see later in the tournament, I give a similar kind of game. Boy, that was a beautiful position. Alright, so we go knight d5, and I go bishop to g4. So I was like, okay, he's not going to go h3, so I'm going to go bishop g4, pin this, and then try to go knight d4 and open up his king. So here he goes a4. I was thinking of c3, I take, and something like this is a good transition. But he goes a4 first. So here, rook b8. Actually, I didn't even look at this during the game, but I could have just gone knight d4. I was kind of fixated on this, and I was like, in general, normally this bishop's on c8 when they go a4. The position's like this. So you always have to go bishop b7 or rook b8. But here my bishop's here. So I just go rook b8 kind of out of instincts. He takes, and he goes c3, stopping knight d4 and preparing d4. Sorry, so I go take. I was expecting bishop takes, but I wasn't sure. Honestly, here in this position, I'm just trying to make it interesting because I'm really worried everything's going to trade off. He's going to push d4, and it's just going to be like a boring position. So looking back, endgames aren't bad, and this kid played really fast. Actually, let me not forget that, and you'll see it even later. But he played so fast the whole game. So take, and this is where I'm happy. And then here I found this really cool idea: knight f5. So knight f5. If he takes on c5, I go knight h4, and now I'm just winning. He's up a piece, but he can't stop this queen f6 idea, and now his king's gonna open. He has to give a piece back, and he's getting checkmated. This is what I thought was going to happen. I was like, okay, perfect way to start the tournament. We're good to go. I get to finish early, and it's time to party. But he finds this cool, not a cool move, but he goes h3, which honestly is just really annoying because it's I'm up a pawn. I have the bishop pair, but he has some activity and some annoying tactics. So I go here, queen e1, and I went bishop f4 check. The reason I wanted to go bishop g5, and it is the best move, but I was scared of knight d4, and I was like, the only thing I could see was sacrificing this exchange. I didn't even look at rook a8 for some reason. I mean, I guess I saw this, and I was like, oh my god, this looks so good for him, I can't do this. So I was looking at stuff just castle, and knight c6, sack the exchange. Remember, I have the 2 bishops, a pawn, but it's not so simple pushing these guys, and I didn't like it. And here's where I really started getting low on time, because, I mean, for him, honestly, all you have to do is just make the only moves. For me, I have to figure out everything and still make sure I have winning chances. So I started burning a lot of clock here. Bishop check, pawn push, and bishop g5 was the better move, but once again, I was scared of this. And like I said before, I have rook a8. So I was like, let me just simplify. I take on f3, and I think he could have taken here, which is stronger, but he decided to take on f3. I come back here, and then g6. The reason I go g6 is I want to go f5. I don't want his pieces to dominate. Like, if you see his position, he's down a pawn, but all the light squares are weak. You can see, like, that's definitely a glaring weakness here. And he's got the f-file. And at some point, I'm worried about bishop c2, d4, and queen here if I castle queenside. So, I'm trying to, I guess, just push his pieces back so he can't settle in. So here, f5. And this is actually when I started feeling good. Queen g5 here, and he's got his pawn back. I mean, I'm going to get it, but he's going to get here. But now his king is really weak. And these pawns turn not into like liabilities, but they're very strong. And I can use them to open up his position and try to checkmate him. So castle, rook takes pawn. And honestly, the biggest reason I lost this game is because I didn't have enough time. Like here, move 27, I have like 1 minute left for the next 13 moves. So for 13 moves, I have 1 minute, and I don't want to lose on time. So here, because I had little time, I decided to play conservative. I played queen takes g6. If I had more time, I would have calculated queen d2 check, and if king h3, I go queen e2, and his rook is trapped. And once his rook is trapped, it's going to be pretty easy to win this game. So let's say, for example, he tries to go all in. So like take, and he goes queen here, trying to checkmate me here. Well, actually, this is checkmate. But I could even go queen check and just take here, and I'm good to go. I'm up a rook. His king is still weak, and my king is safe, and is just completely winning for black. So that was a real missed opportunity in this game. So I go queen hg6, which honestly isn't losing, and I'm still better and winning. So queen h4, and this is when I start going a little crazy. Now what I should have done in this position is probably just make normal moves. Inside, I was scared that he was going to trade everything and get opposite color bishops and find a way to draw this. So I'm not even thinking that I can lose this yet. I'm just hoping he can't draw it or make a fortress. So at e4 here, and b4 is honestly, it's like really strong. Like I saw the idea, but I didn't have like the time to do it, I guess. I was like, I gotta figure out this stuff, and I didn't even think I could like start playing position over here. But the idea with b4 is it puts pressure on this diagonal, but now my rook can come to b2 because I'm going to take and open up the b file. And with that, remember, his king is weak. If the rook comes in here, I get all these possibilities. Bishop here, a lot of good things. So I play rook e8, and he finds this really, really good move that honestly just puts me in a panic mode. He goes bishop d1. Now with 30 seconds, I need to figure out what do I do in this position. This threat is so annoying. And what I do, the mistake I make is I start going like ballistic. I start trying to sacrifice all my pieces and checkmate him. Now they say in fighting, when you're tired, when you're under pressure, you fall back on what you do the most. So sometimes it's for wrestlers, it's like to wrestle. For people who like to punch, to kick, they go to that. For me, it's I like to go all out and attack all my pieces. So when I panic, and this is a mistake I make time and time again, and I really need to cash out for myself, I just try to sacrifice all my pieces and try to checkmate him. Because naturally, I'm an attacker. I want to checkmate, I want to attack. And here, simple move was queen g5. I saw queen g5, and the reason I didn't play it is because, oh my god, it's opposite color bishops. This is a draw. I'm going to draw this. When in reality, I can still win this. I have the better position. He's going to take, let's say take, and I go rook takes. And now I have this 2-on-1. I can't lose it, and I still have winning chances. And remember, I'm playing, I guess, a lower rated, like, he's still going to have to feel pressure. And more importantly, I have no time. I have like probably 30 seconds after this point. Why am I playing complicated? So I go like a genius, f4. He takes, take, and then, I mean, I see it. I see the refutation. I see all these moves, and I know it doesn't work. But I just didn't know what else to do. I panicked. So after this, I make a couple moves, but honestly, it gets from bad to worse. He gets, with this move, with this opening it up, he also gets the g file. He takes on g7. This pawn is nothing. I'm never going to promote it. And honestly, his king is kind of safe. So I play a couple more moves, but then I go on to resign after being, I think, down a rook, and all the pieces came off the board, so it was a down a rook and an endgame, which is GG, as you know. So honestly, worst possible start. If I flash back real quick to where I thought I was cruising, after knight f5, I was like, okay, this is an easy win. We're good to go. So a lot of credit goes to him. He played really well, and he played really fast. And the blitzkrieg strategy is definitely a weakness of mine. Like, I will lose sometimes if people play too fast, and they just survive. They survive my attack, and then I'm gassed out, and my position's all a mess. So round 1, not the best, and now round 2, I gotta bounce back. Alright, what's up, guys? This is round 2 against Tanitoluma Adewumi. This kid's a little bit famous. He's I think from New York, my home state, and honestly I think he's really good. Very interesting experience. I think we'll talk about it more throughout the game. So it starts out with a Con Sicilian, and one thing I do know about him is he's Peter Svidler's only student, and Svidler is a super strong Grandmaster, 2700. Honestly, a gangster, pretty funny, does stuff for Chess24, and his openings are really strong. He's known for the Grunfeld, the Con, and I think definitely some other stuff. But I know the Grunfeld and Con, he's basically like mastered. One cool thing about the game is I know Peter Svidler is gonna be able to see this game. So I was trying to do my best, and whenever you play someone a little bit famous, you try to go a little bit extra hard because you know more people are gonna be watching. So knight b3. So here, I want to go knight takes c6. I was honestly just kind of a chicken, and I was like, let me just do what I know. And honestly, I'm kind of realizing that a lot from these games. I'm falling into these tendencies because I'm scared to do new things. And the reason I'm scared to do new things is because I didn't practice enough. And the funny part is I actually do practice this position a lot with my training partner, Gunnar. And we get these crazy games, but I guess it was a tournament, so I was just going to play conservative. Kind of do what I know. So this setup, I kind of get every time. I might have to retire this setup, or at least mix it up. Sometimes you get beautiful games with this, but then from this tournament, not the best. So knight b4. Knight b4 is an annoying move because this bishop has a lot of checkmating ideas on h7, and when he takes it off, he's not going to get checkmated. But I continue, rook takes, and I try to get this big center and then just start moving all my pieces towards his king. So knight d1, I'm trying to migrate e3 g4 or f2 g4, something like that. He goes a4, and generally what you see is black plays on the queen side, white plays on the king side, and it becomes either a race to I checkmate him, or he breaks through here and everything falls apart. So knight d4, e5, and this is when I see this tactic of this rook getting stuck, and I'm like, no, please no, because bishop c8, and where does his rook really go? So first thing, where do I put my knight? I don't want to come back, so I want to keep moving forward. I can't take here because he has the queen check and he picks up the knight. So knight f3 is kind of, I'm forced into it, but then you're gonna see him be dancing for a sec. Take, and now the rook is really getting trapped because bishop c8, and where does the rook go? Here, here it's getting trapped. So now I'm not in panic mode yet, but I'm getting a little bit scared. So knight f2, bishop c8, and I go rook h6. This is what we call desperation. And this is kind of marking, even the first game kind of had it, but defense is really, really important. I think every single game, not every single, but a lot of them, either I was losing or my opponent was losing and one of us came back and either evened it or like even went on to win and get a good position. So here I'm surviving for my life. e5. This idea I didn't like so much from him. I thought he had some more triangle variations, maybe king here or maybe even open it up. Because he's got these two bishops and my position's a mess. But if he locks it up, he's going to give me time to recover. And that's kind of like what you see in fighters. Like sometimes they get this guy hurt and then they don't go for the finish. And then after 5-10 minutes, the guy recovers, comes back, and then he finds the finish. Or it hurts your moral when you've almost beaten someone and they come back. So right now here, he should really be going for the kill because my position's such a mess. But when he locks it up, he gives me a lot of time to get my pieces back. And here, so here he missed a really cool idea, d4. So d4 is a pawn sacrifice, but if I take and he puts his bishop on this diagonal, this is going to be so annoying for me. At some point, he's going to get his queen here too. I'm going to have to worry about checkmate the whole game. And all these pawns are weak, the center is completely opened up, and I have no attack. And my rook's on h6. Like, why is my rook on h6? So Once again, like when your opponent is hurt, go for the finish. Don't give him too much time, but then at the same time, don't get wild and crazy. So it's a balance, and it's not an easy one, but it's a very important one that everyone needs to learn how to master. Okay, so rook d8. I go rook c1 first. I wanted to go d4, but I looked at some of his games from the past, and something he does pretty well is he gets good positions, and then he simplifies into endgames that basically he can't lose, and he can kind of torture his opponent. So if I went d4 here, I did not like queen c4. I thought queen c4, and now if I trade queens, I mean, my rook on h6 it's almost like I'm down a piece. These pawns are going to be weak, and like let's say for example, if he can do this, this pawn is going to be a huge target. So I went rook c1 first to take away his trading idea, and then I went d4 here. Now this is when I start getting time to attack on the king side. So here I went rook h4, rook h3 is supposed to be better. Honestly, these are some of the toughest like decisions for me when you have two moves here, and I can't tell which one's better. You'll see some more throughout the tournament. Rook h3 is better. Sorry, rook h4 is rook h3 is better. I think the idea is at some point I can get my queen h4, and I guess this rook is less of a target on h3 than h4. So I go rook h4, and honestly here both of us don't really know what to do. We're just shuffling our pieces, kind of waiting for the right moment to strike. And you're gonna see that by a lot. Like you see, I go bishop f2, and then I come back this way because I realize like the bishop on f2 is not as good because now his knight can come to these two squares. And then here's kind of when the momentum starts to shift. Like here, I got the optimum position. His queenside play is not really made any progress, and I've made a lot of progress here. I'm ready to open up and try to go for some kind of tactic, some attack. So, I mean, if you look over here and then you look over here, like you can see there's a huge difference. Here, position's open, position's a mess, and then you skip forward to like here, and now I've kind of rallied the troops and I'm going against his king. All right, so here I make this, I thought it was a cool move, b4. My idea is if he takes, I go bishop here, and now my bishop comes in this way, very annoying for him, and his pieces, and now actually his pieces are a mess. If you look at this coordination, I mean, these pieces are just like all over the place, not sure what to do. So I think another thing I wanted to do with b4 was to stop him from going b4 and bishop here. I thought that was really annoying as well. This bishop was not really doing anything, and the bishop here could be really annoying. It hits the knight, and at some point he can come here, that bishop would be a monster. So I go b4, he goes f5, and now I'm ready to strike. Now he's opened up the position, and I start seeing kind of ways to make progress. So take, remember, on your strong side, my strong side is this king side, I want to open it up. So in general, that means trade off the pawns if you have the chance. So I take, he goes here, and now I start migrating this way. And this is when I kind of start getting the breakthrough here, and on knight g4. Knight g4, and he's kind of surrounded, knight h6, knight f6, everything is starting to become a threat. And I think around here, he had like 30 seconds, a minute left. So he doesn't really have time to like figure everything out. So this, here, h5, and here, knight h6 was winning, king h7, and just rook g3. The idea with rook g3 is now I can do this, and there's just no attack on the rook. It's such a quiet move in a crazy position. I was looking at knight g5 and everything, and I was like, man, I don't really know what's going on here. It's too complicated. Let me just keep it simple. So I go rook f1, keeping it simple, obviously, adding more, and it's just like one of the many crazy positions I got from this tournament. It was honestly like a very fun tournament based off the positions, but a little bit stressful too. All right, so knight f6 check, bishop takes, pawn takes here, and then knight e5. So bishop e8, and here rook g3 is actually really strong. And the reason why, kind of blowing my mind, is if here I just go rook takes g6. I'm like, what? When I saw this, take here, and he just can't do anything. He can't stop f7 check. There's no way. Even like queen e8, I just go knight e5. And that's just how strong my pieces are. Now the coordination is flipped, and you see like his king is weak. I have a lot of pieces by his king, and the eval is totally on my side here. So knight e5, queen c7, and then I would just go f7, and now I'm just winning. I have checkmate. I think he has to sack his queen, but instead I went f7 here. He has to go here, because if he goes bishop takes, I just go rook f3, and this guy's a gunner. He can't defend it. So he sacks the exchange, take here, and even here it's not that easy. This, and he's fighting. Like there's still fight left. in this position until he goes here. He goes here, he runs to the bathroom, and I'm just excited. I'm like, yes, king h7, because what he misses is, I mean, not a crazy tactic, but just queen takes rook. Queen takes rook here, take, and then he goes on to, he just resigns here. Because it means down a rook, then my rook's going to go ahead and take everything. So honestly, really, really crazy game. It's with kids really young, it's kind of hard to tell, like, is this guy too much hype, or is he a prospect, like, what's going on? And I will say, like, he played really well. It was not an easy game. I mean, out of the opening, I wouldn't say dead loss, but I'm losing, and I have to really fight my way back. And if he went for the killing blow, if he waited a little bit less, I think I would have been in trouble here. But he gave me enough time. I rallied the troops, and then I was able to go ahead and win this game. So that's round 2. Bouncing back from a really tough round 1 where my Archangel got cracked. Like the opening I don't lose with, the opening I always win with, I won. And this game honestly got me really close to the edge. Because if I had lost this game, man, that would have been rough. 0-2, lost to 2 lower rated. It's really hard to come back from that. So this is a much needed win against honestly a very tough opponent. And now I'm moving on to round 3. Oh man, y'all are in for a treat with this game. This is the reason why people play the French. Okay, generally the French has a bad rap. People say some things about it, but this game, you watch this game and you'll understand why the French, you don't mess around. Little backstory: I was really torn between e5 and e6. Remember, I did lose with e5 my round 1, so I was a little traumatized. And what really kind of pushed the edge, or like the reason why I played the French this game, is I looked at this guy's games, and he didn't do well against the French. And more specifically, I knew he played this a3 variation, and he's never seen the move f6 in his like file or his games. Everyone's played something else, and no one's played f6 against him. So that being said, I was more confident to play this because I knew it was something he wouldn't know. And honestly, it worked like a charm, because the second I played f6, he almost like froze, and it was like, oh man, what do I do? So f6, he chose bishop d3, which I think is the best line for black here. You'll see. But the position that black is going to get is kind of just a free play. So take, and d takes is still complicated, but man, knight takes, and it's time to, like, this variation is so much fun. Knight f6, take, and here, you don't want to take on c5 until my bishop moves. Like, you could just castle here, I go here, and now you take. Because now, you basically got a free move, right? My bishop, you castled, bishop moved, and then take, and then now you have the position. Whereas if he does it here, he goes like, take on c5, I just come here straight. And let's say, for example, he does castle. My plan was this. If he goes like here, I have all these tactics like e5. You can't take because there's all these sacks on f2. Let's say, for example, queen takes, bishop takes pawn, here, take, and knight check, and I win this queen. And if he goes like b4, I can do the same idea with take here, rook takes, and knight here. Because if he takes, there's going to be back ranking at the end. So right here, he's already kind of getting into a mess. Queen e2, castle, b4, bishop here. And now I get this center, and man, e5, e4, and then a5. Let's just go to this position. This is a dream position. Every single one of my pieces, except for this rook, is kind of maxed out. This bishop, I guess the queen could be in front, and then this knight's going to do some damage. And you're going to see, like, when you get positions this good, when you have a good base for your attack, and what I mean by a good base for your attack is you have healthy pieces, and, I mean, his position isn't good. So you can see all his pieces are stuck in this corner, right? They're not doing anything, whereas my pieces are all kind of pouring towards his king. This is when you start looking for the highlight finish, the knockouts, the nice tactics. So set up a good base, get your pieces in, make sure your pieces are in good squares, and when you've kind of like pulled away from your opponent and like you have more attackers than defenders, now you go for the attack. So I go queen e7, trying to go queen e5, and honestly just checkmate him. So he goes here, take, here, and then here. Now it's the same idea. Remember, if you have a good base, you go for the attack. I have the knight, the rook, the queen, the bishop, and even this pawn. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attackers versus 1 defender. Imagine if you got basketball and you got a 5-on-1. You're going to score. If you don't score when it's 5-on-1, you did something wrong. If you do everything right, or even something kind of right, you will score 5-on-1. So here is when you go for the finish, and this is when I went knight takes g2. Knight takes, king takes, rook f3, and it's game over. This is just GG. Queen d2, queen h4. He sacks, and I mean I can take. It's not even like I can't take. He has nothing over here, but I also have checkmate. So I go queen takes pawn here, check here, and then rook h3. So a phenomenal game from the French. I think I finished this game in like 30 minutes to an hour. Easiest game. Very happy. I mean, honestly, this is another little 11-year-old prodigy. The Tani. So Sullivan is 14. He's 2200. Tani is 2200. He's 11. And this kid's about 2150 and he's 11. So against these little prodigies, I'm starting to get the groove. Starting to play some better games. But man, that first game really haunted me. But now I'm 2 out of 3. I bounced back. And I'm trying to kind of come back and make some progress in this tournament. Alright, so this is my round 4 game against Christopher Repka. I don't know if you all remember, but I did play him in the World Open. It was a Scotch Gambit, and I had a choice to either have a draw or play on in a worse position, and I, like a genius, I was like, let me play on in a worse position and try to win, because I can be Grandmasters now. And yeah, that's not going to happen again. I learned my lesson. But oh man, this game is a crazy game. This is the kind of game that gives you a headache after. And you're just like, what is going on? So, further proof that the French you don't mess with. He decides to go with the French, a Grandmaster, a strong one. E4, E6, and we get a Tarrasch. I think Tarrasch is a good way to play against the French. You get a lot of control, and sometimes you get these very nice free attacks, which I like. So E5, this is all theory, knight E2. And he goes with Queen takes F6, which isn't as common. But I know it's a variation. So castle, bishop here, here, this, and then bishop g5, bishop h4. Now my threat is bishop takes h7 check, and knight g5. And he almost immediately goes e5. So, friends, when a Grandmaster plays a move fast, he probably isn't making a mistake. I mean, I knew this was not a blunder, but it also looked too good to be true. So I'm like, okay, let me just take this. Take. He doesn't go king takes. He sees the idea. Here, and I win his queen. So he goes king h8. And here, I mean, I'm very skeptical. But I'm like, okay, this looks good. So knight g5, queen f6. And I saw all these kind of checkmates with like knight f4, queen h5, and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, cool. We're still cool. We're chilling. And here, yeah, d takes is... So my heart was in the right place. So we talked after the game, and there is a refutation to this variation. If you guys plug it in the computer, you guys can go ahead and find it. I don't want to spoil it, because he did tell me after the game, like, hey man, if you did this, you're winning. I just had to gamble. The reason why he did this crazy attacking variation against me is he lost the last round against his kid. So he was like, all right, now I gotta knock someone out. I want to play a crazy game and checkmate him. So I take. So f4 is actually a key move, and it has a lot to do with the refutation. So I'll give you guys a hint. So here, actually, you don't take. You go knight g5 first, and then f4 comes in. And I'll say the difference here, I think, is if this, I can go... Oh, no, sorry. If knight g5, queen f6... Oh, no, if f4 and e4, I can take here. That's the difference. Now the bishop's not hanging. And if he takes, I take here, like this. Boom. All right, so a little sneak peek into the refutation. So I go here. He goes here. I take... this, I go f4, and I'm like, all right, what is going on? I mean, I think I'm good. And then he goes bishop g4, and I'm like, oh my god. Look at how many pieces. And then h3, and he goes queen h6. Look at how many pieces are under attack in this position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 different pieces. That's 7 captures. And I gotta calculate all of this. So when you get these crazy positions, what I try to do is, man, I just want to get... Okay, I don't want to go further into the madness unless I have to. And unfortunately here, I kind of just cracked. Like, I did... My brain hurt. I didn't know what to do. Or I started to get a little bit low on time. So I just tried to transition, and honestly, it was a really bad one. I played take, and he just goes check here, and then take, and then everything kind of goes. Queen takes pawn, rook takes here, take. I tried some, like, desperate stuff. My idea was if he takes here, maybe I can get some kind of tactic with like this bishop here, queen here, a knight check, blah blah blah. But this is just cooked. This is cooked. I think my friend came. I didn't even notice, but he was like, "Yeah, it came into your position. You were like down 2 pieces," and I was like, "Yeah, it was lost by then." And but yeah, bishop e7 is a mean move because now he doesn't have to prove anything. He doesn't have to be up a lot of pieces. If he just trades off and he's up a piece, easy win in the end game. So yeah, this is a pretty crazy game. And Mark, don't forget, this is from a French. The French you don't mess with. This is what I'm learning. Like, you can make fun of it, but it'll come and get you. You just gotta be backed by good prep, and that's, I think, a quote from an Ishigiri that I think makes a lot of sense. Like, honestly, any opening, all openings, if backed with good prep, if played many times, it's legit. And he told me, like, he's beaten many grandmasters with this idea. Eventually, somebody, like, found the refutation, so he stopped playing for, like, 10 years, and he decided to pick me to try it again on. So, I mean, a rough game. I'm just happy I learned what to do, because if this happens again, then I'm going to be ready. So that's kind of the idea when you just kind of get out-prepped, outplayed. You just got to take in stride, learn, and then next time you're going to know what to do. And it's as simple as that. So round 4, not the best, but we're going on to round 5. All right, so this is round 5 against this guy, Dennis Lee. And just like Repka took out his frustrations on me, I had to take my frustrations out on this kid. So we get e4, e5. This time I go with e5. Honestly, I don't know how I decided to go e5 or e6. It was really just like, last second, I'm going to do this. So we get a Roy Lopez, which I'm always excited about. And same setup. He goes d3. And all these kids, they're not playing the main line. Like, c3, d4 is more common. d3 and knight c3 are just the more slower, more cautious ways to play these positions. I mean, I guess if that's how you play, that's how you play. Just a little bit surprised. So I go d6, and I'm kind of going for the same idea, and he goes h3. And I'm like, let's go. So bishop b6, a4, rook b8, and now this is when I go for my attack, so g5. Now here, I think a little sus, and I think I fell in love with it because of how well it works in blitz, but in slow games, it's not that simple. And I don't know if I should be going for this g5 stuff all the time. I think I need to start playing a little bit more principled. But against these guys, it kind of works. So knight h2, g4. Remember, I want to open it up. Maybe rook g8 was better, but he's okay with g4. So g4 take, rook g8. Knight a5 is not the kind of move I would expect. And I guess the knight's safe here, that's why. Because if take, the bishop's got it. So anyway, rook g8, he goes g5. Honestly, kind of a bug skill, but I still like my position here. Take, bishop e3. And really what blows my mind is the computer likes bishop takes, which seems so anti-positional, because I'm opening the f-file and my king's kind of weak. But I guess the idea is you can't really move this knight. Or I can always support the knight with rook g6. And it's just like, just go g4. Let's say he goes knight d2. Just g3. And yeah, I don't know. Like, computer likes it. Honestly, this looks pretty sketchy. I would be a little bit nervous in this position. I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to lose. But I would be, my king's not doing the best. And it's not how close I want to get to getting checkmated. So I just start to slow play it. And you're going to see, like, I go with my usual technique. Move all your pieces over to where his king is. And my friend put it really accurately. This is kind of called, I like to call it, or I'm going to name it now, the Blitzkrieg technique. It's basically, you bring all your pieces to their weak side, and then you knock them out. And that's how I won a lot of these games from this tournament, just blitzkrieging. So you just watch carefully as you see kind of what's going on. So you see everything starts shifting over to this side. So actually, yeah, let's say we have this position, right? So you have this position. This is our starting position. And now look at where all the pieces go. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Even my king goes towards his king. Like, look at, or let's even go a little bit deeper. And you're going to see exactly how it looks. Like, this is the blitzkrieg. Let's go back to here. So we have, not even here. Let's go back, yeah, to here. And my rook on b6. Right now I have one piece in the attack, maybe two. Now if we go forward to this position, I have, no, we're going to go to this position. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, every M is in my bank account. I have every single piece trying to attack them. And I mean, this is kind of the mistake that the low-rateds make, or when you're low-rated or when you're playing Grandmasters. You give them time to build this army, to build this this pressure on you, and then when you've got that many pieces attacking you, it's just impossible to kind of defend. Now here, for a second, I was like, oh my god, I can't find the finish. Like, there has to be something here, and then I find the finish. So queen h1 check, king f2, and then boom, knight g4. GG. If he takes the knight, I think it's actually checkmate, but queen takes G2, king E3, and then rook takes pawn is just mate. And if he goes the other way, I actually didn't see checkmate here. I was just going to win his queen with queen H4 check, but even better is check, take, rook check, here only move, and then rook E5 mate. Now this one would have been a pretty mate as well. But this, I think what I was planning on doing would have been fine here. So king G3, queen H4 check, take the knight, and take here. I mean, there's still checkmates and stuff too, but this would be completely winning. So kind of the big thing that we're seeing so far is, one, the French is pretty solid. You don't mess with it. And two, don't give your opponent time to bring all their pieces over. You will get blitzkrieg, and you will get checkmated, and you'll get put on a poster. So now that was round 5. Now we're going on to round 6. What's up, guys? This is round 6 from the Washington Chess Congress. I have white against Sudarshan, Sriniaiyer, and I get my second Khan Sicilian. Honestly, Khans are getting pretty popular. You definitely want to know what you're doing against it. And once again, I chickened out and played knight b3. So I need to go knight takes e6. That's probably what I'm going to do in the future. And I actually got a good position this game. But he also, he did well. So, okay, so here, what really, bothered me in this game is it's, move, let's say, here, move 8. And this guy's already used 1 hour on his clock. And I've used, 5 seconds. I've played this position a million times. So that is the advantage to playing and opening a lot, even if it's bad. You already know what you're going to do. I know my setup, and this guy's spending, an hour on the clock. So I'm cruising here. I'm feeling good. I'm walking around. I'm like, all right, I'm going to beat this guy. He's 2100, I think, FIDE or 2000. So I'm thinking I got to win this, and he's already down on time, so this should be a lock. So here, I literally go knight d1 because I want him to take more time. Because I know in his head, he's going to calculate knight takes c2 and be like, wait, it's a free pawn. And then I have rook c1, but he's going to calculate that at least 10 times and be like, why doesn't this work? What's going on? All right, so let me put the engine on too. So knight d1. And I guess he's slightly better. Actually, no, it's just equal. Yeah, and that's the bigger problem with this opening. If black knows what he's doing, I think he's just fine. Knight b3 actually doesn't make sense because this knight should be towards this side, and I'm moving it back from the king side. So if I'm going to play knight b3, I probably should be attacking the queen side because that's where the knight is. Anyway, I'm just playing moves. I do my usual rook lift. This. I take and I get this position because I really want this bishop to be opened up, and I can dislodge this knight. I can attack here, and after this, I can basically force it out of here. So now I'm thinking, all right, I probably have a pretty good attack. I can free play against this king side. This is all locked down. But f5 is a good move. And this is actually kind of a crossroads in this position because here I was he's got the 2 bishops, so I should keep the position closed. But I want to attack him, so I want to open up the position. My final conclusion was, let me just attack him because that's probably my best path to victory. But positionally speaking, it'd be better to not take here with en passant because he's got the 2 bishops, and if he opens the position, it's probably better for him. And even the computer says black's doing pretty good here, and I'm really not doing anything here. All right, so here g3, not a beautiful move, but I guess when I kind of make g5 here would have been really strong. Because remember, he's got the 2 bishops, so he's got to open up the position. But he plays e5 here, making it way easier for me. So I just take, and I think he miscalculated because he thought he was winning with d4, but I can just go bishop e4. And now when he takes, I just go rook takes, and he gets his material back, but he's gonna lose his d pawn. And first I go king g2, because he can't support this pawn, and I want to move his rook out of here. I don't want his rook to go to f2 and kind of mow the lawn over here. So king g2, this take. I mean, and here I should just be dead to rights winning. This was actually really bad. I think part of it is I got overconfident because I was like, okay, this is gonna be an easy win. So I just move my pieces in, and here I make a really bad move. I play, rook d5, and what I forgot is after rook here, he can go rook to a6. In my head, I only saw rook c4, and then I was like, all right, I'll just go bring my king over here, and I think I go h3, and then king here. I'm going to win this pawn and get connected pass pawns, and that's just an easy win. But unfortunately, I missed rook a6, and now this is winning, but I think it's also a theoretical draw. I think the way to win this is, I guess, just bring my king over, huh? mean, I guess that makes sense. I also, another idea that I was thinking was get this rook on the side like this. That way it can support these pawns. Let's just say, for example, let's say he goes like boom, 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 and then boom. And then I can get my king over here. I mean, I guess it's still a draw. But I was thinking I'd get my king over here, and this rook will help cut off this king and support these pawns. I'll win the rook with this pawn, and then I'll come back and finish the job over here. But this is honestly a really good practice position that I'm going to use with my students. Because I think both you should know how to try to win this and how to try to hold this as black. And then basically here, I mean, I pushed. Honestly, I took another like 50, 60 moves, but I could not crack him, and he held this position. And I actually ended up going and drawing this game. So honestly, pretty disappointing with this game. I thought this should be like a pretty easy win. And this guy literally had no time the whole game, which honestly hurt me more. But that's round 6, and we will move on to the next round. All right, so this is round 7, and honestly, this one was a tough one. Buckle up for this one, because this game was a very, very interesting one. So I start e4, e5, and the second he goes bishop c4, I'm like, oh, I should have gone e6. Because I think one of my roommates played this guy, and he's known for playing like the bishop's opening, though it just ended up Italian. But I thought it was going to be some Vienna stuff right now. And right now I'm kind of leaning towards the French. She's been really good to me, and I need to treat her better. All right, so we get this position. So here I'm pretty happy, and the problem is he didn't go h3, so I don't have a hook. So I don't really want to go g5, g4 yet, but at the same time, I want to go g5, g4. So I just did it. Especially after bishop c2, I was like, all right, time to party. And then we get this position that's really interesting. I'm not sure whether I should take or not, because I'm giving it the bishop pair, but his pawns kind of become a mess. Yeah, so computer kind of likes it. It gives it just a slight advantage for black. I mean, as slight as it gets. So take, and then knight e7. So knight e7, I guess, was not the right move. a5 is better. I need to stop b4, but I'm trying to move my pieces over here. And even maybe castle kingside once my knight gets here, because these pieces are surrounding this king. So I go ahead with this, here, and he pushes over here. And I just go a5. I'm like, right now I'm actually like, I'm pretty happy with this position. At least I feel good, and I feel like I'm going to have some prospects over here. He goes knight e1, knight f4, which I think is where I kind of start to go wrong. My idea with knight f4 is he wants to go knight here and push here, right? So boom, and then boom. So my idea was I can go knight here and always trade him off, or I can come back to e6 and guard this square. So that's the idea behind knight f4. And then I go c5, which honestly I did it kind of because it looks cool. I'm gonna be honest, because it's like, how many times you get a position like this? And I mean, it looks okay, but I think it's pretty sketchy looking back. Not the best idea. C5, and you're gonna see why. It's just, and this is like a really interesting transition. So once I go bishop takes, this bishop is kind of here for life, and he's gonna attack this pawn for life. Like, this is the guardian of b6 and the attacker of c3, the watchman of c3. Especially when I go b6 and sink it in, which you're gonna see right here. So this bishop is never going anywhere unless he wins this pawn. Don't forget this guy though. You don't forget him. He's gonna become important in a sec. So here we're just doing some maneuvering. And what I should have done is gone for this queen d7, queen h3 idea way faster. So I saw it now. Problem is now it's a little bit maybe too late. He goes queen f3, which is, I was really hoping he wouldn't do this. I go rook g6, bishop d2. And I'm just I mean, it's just, the problem is there's no easy way to really get in this position. I can't open them up. I guess h5, h4 and take, or knight f4, those are my ideas, but they're just too slow. Like, I really don't really have anything going on fast. And I really wanted to go knight f4, but I didn't think it worked. So he goes here, I go queen c6, and now this is getting desperation time. So queen c6, because I don't want him to sack on b6 or sack on a5, load up my king. And my pieces are just useless. Like, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces doing nothing, because they're just like, it's a logjam over here. It's like, I don't know, they're waiting for paperwork to process. So queen c6, and this is when I start thinking I'm dead. So I go g4, he goes here, queen here, and after knight here, this is when, I guess through some miracle, I saw after take, I can't go knight c7. This was my original plan. Knight d7 is like, okay, I'm holding. If he sacks, he sacks. But then I saw, like, he can go rook takes pawn, And if pawn takes, he has rook check, king takes, and he takes my queen. And then this is just dead. These rooks are useless. He's got the bishops, and all his pieces are coming in really, really fast. So luckily, and by luckily I mean like I'm playing out of desperation here. Knight g7, take, sack the exchange and a pawn. And literally in this position, I'm ready to resign. I was like, all right, let me just make some moves. If he wins, once he wins a little bit more material, I'm just gonna resign because this is bad. So bishop g5, rook here. I'm just making moves once again, and then he gives me this c3 pawn, which I think was a huge mistake. He should have just gone bishop d2. Bishop d2, and he has all the time in the world. He can go h3, he can go f3, like really no problem. But he goes here, and now I start getting a little bit of life. So I go take, king takes, and I take on c3. He takes on b6, and he said he missed this after the game, but bishop b4, and now this rook is pretty much getting trapped. Rook c6 check, king here, and I was going to go knight d4, but I guess what we both missed is he can just go king g2, because if, yeah, I think I already put this in. King g2, okay, fine, king g4, because if knight d4, he just goes here, which is insane, because now if I take, he has check, and then check here, and I have to go king b7 to support the rook. Now he takes with check, and I'm just dead. So I guess that's what he missed. So his rook actually isn't getting trapped because he can swing to h1. Not a very simple idea to see, but it's one where like the reason he didn't see it is because he cut off after knight d4, and that's the reason I didn't see it either. I didn't even look for a second at what can he do to kind of get out of it. But luckily he doesn't see it, and he just sacks the exchange back, which honestly should still be winning. I go knight here. I mean, once again, I'm not okay. I'm here. I'm feeling a little bit better here, but I still have accepted I'm probably gonna lose this game. But I'm playing fast. So check king here, and this is when it starts getting a little funny, because I attack this and he can't support it. If he goes rook here, I think I just go back, and then I come back and attack it. Because once again, once his rook moves, I can attack this pawn. So he has to go here, attack the knight, and then I come back to here. So now it's starting to get a little bit funny. So I take here, and then here, and now once again, I'm threatening knight takes bishop, because that actually wins a piece, because now I'm attacking his rook. Like, let's say, for example, he goes here, take, and if he takes here, I take back with the, wow, this is still a draw. I take back with the knight, and apparently it's a draw, which is kind of insane. But I'm technically up a piece, right? So rook e2, I go here, and then I take here. And now here is kind of a pretty big crossroads position for me, because I'm thinking, do I go king c7 and go for the king and pawn endgame, or do I go king e7, or sorry, maybe here king e7, which actually I guess I can do. King e7 is a good move. I was thinking king e7 to support this pawn, and eventually I come take this, because now actually, like, let's say he just does here, I can take this, because now if he goes rook here, I have knight here, and previously my king is in the way, so here I basically have to go king c7. And I go for this endgame, which apparently is really winning for him. Nah, I don't think so. Take here, king c5. This is all forced. Push, and I calculated like 1,000,000 times. And we both queen. He queens with check. I go king here, and then we played this on. I actually lost the notation. But the idea that I did was I basically moved this king over to here. Once the king gets under the pawn, it's way easier to hold, or way easier to draw, because I can start trading the queens. He can't push this pawn, and now it's just I have 1,000,000 checks. So getting 50 moves here is not the worst. So actually, through some miracle, I ended up drawing this game, which I think is insane, given the fact I was ready to resign, and I should have resigned because my position was that bad. But that's why you don't resign. And two, that's why defense is so important. This game really kind of saved my tournament. There's a couple games here that, like, if I played a little bit worse, I would have lost, and my tournament would have been ruined. So really continuing with that theme of defense throughout the tournament, I'm pretty happy with this game. Just looking at how far I came back. But out of the opening, man, it was a bad game. This is one of those games I was honestly kind of tired from the last game. I think not saying like I was exhausted, but my brain just wasn't as sharp, and I guess this game woke me up, so I'll take it. Alright, so this game was honestly a really fun one. Steve Wang, or Tianqi Wang, was actually my roommate, and he actually played one of my other roommates, so I wasn't really looking forward to this one. I think playing your roommate is always kind of awkward, because whoever wins, it's going to be like, I don't know, just like there's gonna be tension in the room, and we had some tension earlier in the room from the tournament, so I wasn't really coming in here with a killer instinct, but I was like, if we're gonna play, let's do it. And I honestly, like, real quick, I think when you play your roommate or your friend, you should just play for the win, make it simple. Or if you guys are, see, that's why it's not simple, because you can always be, all right, let's just take a draw. But I think in general, like, especially if it doesn't like guarantee you guys both win or something, or win money, just play for the win. It's more simple. So yeah, we play. We get a Caro-Kann, and here he goes knight a6, and I'm like, of course this guy's gonna play some weird stuff like knight a6. I've never seen before, and this line is really popular and been played. Actually, no, I think Lenderman did play this line against me, and yeah, a lot of Grandmaster games in this, a lot of games, but knight a6 I've never seen. So learning from my Repka game, I knew probably don't take here. It's too I guess it's too simple. But this is kind of some poker stuff where you don't know if he's bluffing or not. But in general, if I don't know it, I'm going to just play conservative and wait. And then I'll go home, analyze it, and decide like what's the best course of action. I mean, actually, yeah, let's see what the computer says. So it does not want to take in a6. And he actually told me after. I mean, it's not terrible, but this b file can be really dangerous, especially since in this variation, white castles queenside pretty much all the time. So I just kind of keep the same structure of the position that I get anyway. So this here, and I think it's here that I realized he's not gonna castle kingside. He's just gonna go king f8 and put his king here, where it's way better, and then this rook can come out this way. So I go rook e1, and we're kind of just making moves here, but basically my idea is let's trade off and let me expose this king. That's what's going on through my mind. And once he goes knight takes e3, here I'm really intrigued, because I thought this was not a good move for him. I think it makes it, I guess, easier for me to play. And this e4, e5, if I can get this in, he's cooked. The problem is it's not so simple, but that should really have been a sense of urgency for me. Like even here, probably e4. But I kind of missed his counterplay. I thought I had all day, but he made this move b4, which is really good. And actually, the best thing to do here is just ignore it. And if he takes, blow it up. And honestly, this would have been way, way better, and I would have loved this position. The reason this is good is if he takes, now his king is really weak and exposed, and he can't even take back because I go like knight f3, and then everything's kind of hanging. So I think, I mean, I wonder if this guy was lower rated or someone I didn't know. Would I have been looking for this? I mean, it's hard to say. Probably not. I would have done the same thing, but I was in a false sense of security here, where I was like, nothing's wrong. And when he went c5, this is when I started to be like, oh wait, this is not so simple. Because if I go here, he puts his bishop here, and this bishop just looks like a monster. Maybe not right now, but eventually, like, he can always put his bishop here, and these dark squares are hella weak. So I go bishop f5. I want to get this bishop versus knight. Queen f2, and I thought I was doing really good here, but he starts to bring his pieces in, and then I go knight f3. I never really want to take this pawn, because there's so much going over here. There was, I think, one move where I could have tried to take it, but I was more focused on opening up his position to the e5 with e4, e5. Alright, so he goes here, knight f3, e4, and once he takes, this is where, like, I think I have him. So originally, in my head, I had calculated knight takes pawn. He goes, well, I thought he had to go rook h8. Oh, sorry, queen takes d4. Yeah, queen f5, and now rook h8. And I thought I had queen d7, but he just takes on c4, and now he guards e6, he guards f7, and he attacks my rook. So this was the. So for a sec I was like a little bit stuck, but then I found this idea after rook takes, queen takes, I can go knight to h4. And now I attack f6, and if he guards it, I can get my knight to f5, which looks really strong. So his only move here is pretty much bishop to f4. I take, and this is where, like, this was just a frustrating position, because I was like, do I go d5? Do I go rook g1 check? Do I go queen takes pawn first? Do I go rook e1 first? Definitely a lot to calculate. I went with rook g1 check, because, I mean, it looks like I can try to get checkmate ideas with queen check, or rook e1 and then queen check, but he goes rook e8, queen h6 here, and this is another place I was stuck. Do I go take here? Do I go d5? The reason I kind of like d5 is I can always go d6, and if he takes, I can go queen takes pawn, and now his king is out in the open. But I go with take on c5 because I'm just like, if I'm going to do it, let me just be up a pawn. But it looks like queen h5 is the best because queen h5 is trying to take here. And if he takes on d4, I think rook check is going to be winning. Kind of winning the house because if he goes king here, I have rook d1 supported by the queen. And I think that's his GG, actually. Actually, yeah, he has to lose the queen. So queen h5 would have been a really nice move to see. I just took here, and I went rook b1. It's like, I am not playing around. Honestly, this back rank is so annoying. The back rank and his h3 pawn. These things were like on my mind the whole time. And I think here I'm starting to get a little bit low on time. So I need to start rushing a little bit. So a4 would have been really strong for him. He can actually just open me up, and I'm kind of busted here, which just seems so wrong because I'm up a pawn and his king is a weak one, and my king is the one getting checkmated. Like, how is that possible? But he goes rook here, queen h7, and then I push. So basically, the only way I can hold this position, the only way I can do anything, is if I get counterplay. And the counterplay comes from pushing this pawn. Because at some point, if I get a queen, he's cooked. So he has to go king over, and then I can get all these checks and everything. So that's my idea with c6, kind of a distraction or deflection to buy myself some time. So he goes push, push, and then take. And I have to go queen takes. If king takes, this is not going to be fun. All these checks. I was thinking queen here check and queen takes pawn check, and then this pawn is definitely a pain. I mean, apparently I can run up because I have some perpetual ideas, but it looks pretty sketch. So I go queen takes, he goes here, check, and we get this queen upon endgame, where basically he gives me all his pawns, but I have this back rank, so I have to go a4. Otherwise, all these checkmates are there, and really there's no other way to guard it. So a4, he gets his pawn, and here I come up with this, like, honestly kind of brilliant idea. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty, it's pretty very clutch too. So here, because if I just push these pawns, he's fine. Like, he's just gonna go queen here, push this, and I'm gonna go ahead and lose that game. But I went pawn push check here, and I came up with this brilliant idea. So I go queen f8, and let me show you why this is so brilliant. He goes push, take check, and he tries to run up because at some point his queen can block, and this is gonna queen, right? But then I'm like, wait a minute, I have some time, because once he queens, he doesn't have checkmate or anything. He has to go queen over, and then he has it. So I go push, and then push. So now I'm threatening the queen, and actually if I queen, he's the one who has to fight for the draw. Because I'm assuming we're going to trade off a pair of queens, and then it's going to be queen and two pawns versus a queen, which is holdable, but he's going to get tortured for sure. So he goes queen f1, and the threat is queen takes pawn, as well as all these checks. And these checks are pretty dangerous. So I go queen d5 check, queen here check, king here, and then we basically get this position. And the cool thing here is he can never go king here or on this row, because then a queen would check, and he can't ever go, he can't go king here. So if he goes king here, I go queen check. Wherever his king goes, I take his queen, and now once he takes, I queen, and now it's gonna be the two pawns and queen versus king and queen. And honestly, I think I probably could have converted that. So after this is just a draw, because he's stuck between these squares, king here, here, and here, and he can never really escape there because I always threaten to win a queen or a queen. So this game honestly was really interesting. Once again, just the defense, the holding. I remember during the game, some guy came up to me and was like, "Hey man, that was a crazy queen upon endgame from last night," and I was like, "Hey man, if you wanted a crazy queen upon endgame, you should check out this game, because this one is even more crazy. Like, come on, 3 queens on the board, threaten to queen another one, and we have a draw." So very fun games. Honestly, like, this is why I love chess, to have these kind of games, and especially not lose when you have these kind of games. That makes a difference, because nothing's really fun when you're losing. But I will take this, take it to the bank, and now we're heading in to round 9. Alright, so this is round 9 of the Washington Chess Congress, and I am playing Sriram Krishnakumar last round, and I think if I won, I'm cashing out, I'm making money. And honestly, walking to this game, I just knew I was going to win. I don't know why. It was just the last round. My boy Gunnar was doing really well. He was playing Levy Rosman. We're sitting next to each other, and I knew I was going to win this game. And sometimes you have that feeling. You just manifest it, I guess. So knowing that I was going to win this game, you know what opening I was going to play. I was going to play the French. And even better is I knew he was going to play classical or Tarrasch. I knew I wasn't going to have to deal with some stupid sideline or some stupid drawish line. And honestly, I kind of knew he was going to play classical. Knowing I was going to win this game, I knew he was going to play the opening that I liked the best. And what happened? He played exactly the line that I know really well, that I play blitz all the time in. So he goes for the classical French. I go for this classical line. Got him. And this is all basically theory here. And okay, so I'll be a little bit honest. This isn't the best line. There's some other lines that are even easier to play as black, but this is a good one too. I mean, I was still happy here. And this is kind of where my notes end. And I know the computer says basically queen c5 is the best move here. And after doing some analysis, it's honestly like there's some other good moves too. Like I think knight c5 is just as good here. Actually, no, knight c5 really wants to trade queens. Bishop b5. Bishop b5 is, I mean, what I played, and honestly, it's fine. G6. Yeah, remember, I want to win. I didn't want to go to an endgame. Honestly, the endgames are pretty fun too. But yeah, I was gonna checkmate this guy. I wasn't going to go to no endgame. This kid's about like maybe 2,000 FIDE. Dude, on top of everything, he just drew my boy Gunnar. So I had to avenge my homie. So we get this position. And I think the best thing for him to do is just to sacrifice the e5 pawn, because taking this isn't really that fun for me, because now I have to, this diagonal basically opens up, and I don't want to open up. So he should have just sacrificed it, probably just take and something like this. But he goes rook e1, and once he goes rook e1, I knew. I mean, once again I say it, but I knew I was gonna win, because I get this really nice attack. I go rook ac8. I was really torn between do I go rook ac8 or rook fc8. I think end of the day, doesn't really make that much of a difference, but I go rook c8. He goes here, take, queen check, and here I take g2. And this isn't really, it's not about being greedy and taking pawns. This is more about let me bring my pieces in, and I want to get my rook to c2 and try to checkmate him. So queen takes g2, he takes on b4, rook c2, and once again, after queen, like, so once your opponent starts moving backwards and playing defense, that's when you really know, like, okay, it's time to push the issue. It's time to, like, checkmate him. And this is the classic, like, blitzkrieg technique that I was talking about in some earlier rounds, where queen a3, it's like, okay, you know what time it is. I'm going to bring my pieces in, and I'm going to find a way to checkmate you and surround you. So rook c8. I was really hoping, so my threat here is, like, if he took on e6, I was just going to take on h1. Because if rook takes, this is actually checkmate. And taking an f7, I just take, and he doesn't have that many checks. He eventually runs out. So he saw the threat. He went knight a4, and here, like, I couldn't decide which move was better. Knight takes e5 or queen f2. And looking back, it's a huge difference. Knight takes e5, and he really can't do anything, because here, and then I get the d3 pawn, and kind of everything goes. Remember, he can't take the knight on e5 because I take this rook. Not only I take the rook, but it's also checkmate. I went with rook, queen f2, and the move I missed was king b1. I was like, okay, I check here, I take here, and I get everything. But he found this good resource, take, pawn takes, king b1, and I'm like, oh wait, I don't know if I'm even winning anymore. I go knight c5, he goes here, take, and legit, rook f3 is the only losing move, and right before he played it, Gunnar beat Levy, and I was like, okay, now I have to win. My boy finished. We gotta go party. Like, I gotta finish fast. And the second the game finished, this guy plays rook f3, the only losing move in the position. Because now I go rook f2, and he can't take this because I take with check here. I take here, I get everything. I check, I take the rook. What do you want? You want queen b2? You want rook b2? Let's say rook b2, for example. I take here, he goes here, I take here. He has to trade queens because if rook block, I have checkmate on c1. He goes queen b2, and now I just take, and I got two connected pass pawns. Actually, this is even better. I can go rook check, trade off the rooks, and then I'm just going to win the king and pawn endgame. So rook f3 is just quickly met by rook f2, and that's just GG. So he goes rook g3, I mean, kind of out of desperation, rook c2, and just look at this queen running the floor. This is what we call a good point guard. She's just watching everything, making sure everything stays in line. This is basically as good as a wife gets. She's just making sure everything runs smoothly. CEO of the company. This queen on d4 right here. Rook b2 check, king c1, rook takes a2, and it's just force mate. Kind of a cool tactic here is after b4, I can actually just take here, because if he goes queen takes, I have queen takes pawn check, and now queen takes here is going to be checkmate. But I could just style on him at the end, but it's winning a million ways, and I don't know, like I said, I knew I was going to win this game, and he kind of fell in line, though. I gave him some chances to come back, and a better player maybe would have, but I mean, they weren't super easy to see. But yeah, that is round 9. So overall, I would rate this tournament about a B-. The reason why is, I mean, the results weren't like super. I mean, it was nice to cash out. I made about $860 from this tournament. But coming back from round 1 losing, and honestly round 2 being really tough, that's why this is a B and not a C. I mean, overall, I'm pretty happy. Like, I got to walk away. Not like, I think I dropped a couple points. But I mean, I learned a lot from this tournament. I learned I definitely need to work harder. Definitely need to play more games. I need to really know my openings. Like e5, I don't know if I know well enough. And honestly, don't underestimate the French defense. The French defense, you need to take seriously. I was definitely like being way too critical on it. And it was more my fault for losing those games than the French. So overall, B-, pretty happy, or I'm pretty happy with the tournament. And the next one is going to be the U.S. Masters in North Carolina. So hope you guys enjoy this video. Peace out.